Hello, everybody. Lead with Empower Podcast, episode 3. Zack Morello, Dan Jaskot. Zach, what is cracking today? How's everything going? And are you mentally prepared? We have a big program tomorrow, and this is going to air after this big program is happening. But not that anybody cares it's listening, because you're listening when you're listening, hopefully listening. How are you mentally preparing or prepared for tomorrow's event? We have 80 plus sixth graders. We are looking at some of, in my opinion, outside of like natural disaster and like those like special weather events that happen.
Yeah.
But we are, at least in my opinion, we are looking at the absolute worst type of weather forecast where it's like in the 40s and there's chance of rain all day today. Where are you at mentally? What's our check-in? What's our temperature right now with this thing right here, Zach?
So my honest opinion, if this was 4 months ago, I'd be like sweating today, preparing for tomorrow. But after the season that we had of back-to-back programs, sometimes more than one program a day, dealing with all different grades, all different people, you know, literally back-to-back, go, and like now I've had a week and a half of like take it back and do some computer work. I'm ready to go tomorrow, man. Like
rock and roll. It doesn't matter what the weather is. You're locked in.
Yeah, I'm locked in, and like I understand what it's going to be like because of this past experience. It's going to be a big program. It's going to be a lot of work. That being said, I'm still ready to rock.
Let it rock. All right, you're obviously come game day, I'll be ready to rock and roll. But as I age and become more wise, I got you by like 10, 11 years here, or whatever it is. There is nothing worse than temperatures in the high 30s to 40s and rain.
True.
It is again, barring any extreme, like special weather circumstances, just like regular weather that we get up here in Connecticut, it's the worst. Yes. It is the worst. And the one thing that helps me with the self-coaching, or there's a couple things that helps me with my own personal self-coaching through what's going to be a tough weather situation. One, it's this group of students. It's their first time working with us, so I will not go out there tomorrow and lay an egg, and I know you will not do that either. We're going to be locked in. We will turn up the juice and get the adrenaline going. That's thing number one, which why I'm ready to confront this battle with horrible weather on the day before Halloween. Number two, it is a perfect example of the importance of preparation and the relation to success. There will be a child tomorrow, and we should probably bring some extra layers. There will be a child tomorrow that probably shows up in T-shirts and shorts.
Yep.
No matter how many times it's like, make sure you dress, make sure you layer, make sure you have rain layer, blah, blah. There will be somebody that's in like either T-shirts and a shirt, T-shirts and shorts, or like just like a cotton hoodie that within 6 seconds of being out in the rain is just a freaking cold, wet rag over half of your body. So preparation, key to success. I am already locked up. I got like my Omni Heat Columbias laid out. Got the rain gear ready to go. I'll probably go soft and wear some gloves too.
Yeah.
But
I mean, to go off what you said, I know I said I'm ready to go, but warm rain, I'll do it all day long. Snow,
dude, light work.
Bring it on. Yeah. But it's that temperature right before it freezes and the cold rain. I'll admit that sucks.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, and I've experienced it. I know how to grind through it. Kind of going into the episode, though, how do you use temperature, heat, cold, rain into the facilitation of the program? I know you do.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Fantastic question. Like, first off, it's it falls under those control the controllable things that's not in our control. Right. So, and this is controlling the controllables, a phrase that's out there a lot right now. It's something that's very prevalent in all of our programming. You know, during the summer months, it doesn't matter how much somebody complains. The weather's not cooling off. During, for instance, like for tomorrow's program, it's going to be cold, it's going to be cool, it's going to be breezy, it's going to be damp, and it's going to be raining intermittently throughout the day. I can complain about that all I want. You can complain about that all you want. It's not changing a damn thing. It's going to rain when it wants to rain, and it's going to be cold, and it's going to be damp, and it's going to be not the best of experiences. So, how do we work that into a program? I think number one, being proactive and being aware of it, right? So, like, and one of the things I emailed, shout out to my guy Ryan Boothroyd, Xavier grad. He's the teacher that arranges this program that we're doing tomorrow. I reached out to him on Monday. I took a look at the forecast. The program's on Thursday. Hey man, looking like we got a shot of some rain during the day on Thursday with some temperature and whatnot. So, please, take a moment to reach out to the students and their parents or guardians and let them know, like, extra layers, layer on top of layer, anything that's like waterproof or water resistant, that should be your outer layer, maybe a change of socks for the ride home, maybe a garbage bag to throw your wet, nasty clothes in. So I think, a good teachable moment is like, how do you handle adverse situations? One, you got to be aware that it might even happen, right? We talk a lot about expecting the unexpected. Like, very, very rarely, no matter what area of career you're in, what profession you work in, whether you're a student, very rarely do things happen exactly like we want them to happen.
Yep.
More often than not, this is like our ideal, our straight and narrow. More often than not, it happens within these like wider sets of parameters. And if you're not thinking of like, oh, it's the fall, there's a chance for rain, and it's always a little bit colder in the fall, that like, this isn't your July cool off summer rainstorm. Like, this is potential for something risky if we don't manage it right. So that's, I think, part number one is like, hey, yeah, it's great that you have an awesome field trip out of school tomorrow, but if that's your only focus, you're missing out on what could potentially be a tough situation. Two, prepare for success, man. It ain't gonna, again, we can complain all we want till we're blue in the face about how cold or how wet it is. It's not changing a darn thing. We cannot control that. We can control how we're preparing and how we're getting dressed for this situation. So, I think it's a great, Ryan, we're not going to add any fee. I'm joking. Now, this is a great kind of natural opportunity to kind of have that opportunity to see, like, can I coach myself through this adversity? Can I do enough of the things that I can control that's going to help me navigate through this situation that's out of my control?
Yep.
So I think those are two key ones. And then the last one is just that self-coaching, right? In our previous episodes, we've both brought light to the idea that, like, the great things that we can accomplish aren't going to happen by just doing like the easy thing over and over again. So like, I think it's a great opportunity, and why I'm excited the program's happening. I joked a little bit about like being miserable. I'm pumped because as we get older and we get further away from like our high school, college time and like competitive sports, like there's not as many opportunities to like test yourself. Yep. So I think there's going to be a cool opportunity to test us tomorrow, and for the students as well. Pretty much can guarantee like they're going to get on the bus a little bit soggy. But at some point, either on the bus ride home or the next day, or at some point later in the school year, they're going to look back on it and be like, damn, that was like the worst weather you could dial up for it, but we still had a great time and we got a lot accomplished, and I'm proud about what I did. And hopefully that's like kind of that springboard of like, hey, next time you're in a tough situation, it's an opportunity to celebrate something real hard.
Right. And like, I don't want to get off topic too much, but when it comes to preparing, you can prepare for anything in that same exact mindset. So yep. I'll go as simple as like driving my truck from here to Massachusetts. At all times, I have this little toolbox just full of crap, just in case things go bad on the road with my truck. And I have that because I've gotten broken down on the side of the road with a vehicle before and had nothing. So
yep.
Like, aside from a spare tire, that's the obvious. Like, I have all these things that if things go sideways, like at least I'm a little bit more prepared than I was the first time that happened. And that's just driving. You can do that with any task.
Oh, anything. And I'm a believer. I'd much rather like take the extra 3 minutes to make sure like that little go bag is set up
Right.
than be caught out on like 8 degrees. Your car's broken, you got nothing, and you're just standing there freezing. So it's like a little extra work on the front end can save us a lot of headaches when we're in the moment of whatever that moment is.
Yeah. And like I'll be out with friends or like, and this is a dumb example, but like, oh, it's so cold out, and I'm like, I got 3 sweatshirts in my bag right now. You want one? Like, I think sometimes over preparing is good too.
Oh, I can attest to that, and I can share. I agree with that, and I can attest to you are an over preparer because I've never seen this in my life, audience. I have a backpack. In my backpack, my computer, my little notebook, some pens, maybe a snack granola bar. It's a backpack.
Right.
Zach shows up. He has a backpack that is not for any of that stuff. It's a damn cooler backpack. And it's deep. He gets his whole his tricep into this bad boy. And Zach, you are over prepared. You never go hungry during a program.
Oh,
you got fat, you got protein, you got carbs. You are locked in.
Always. And like that's from experience. Like I know this gets personal, but I get a little cranky, lightheaded, malnourished. Like when I'm not eating, I just don't feel like myself. So I bring a whole day's worth anytime we even have half a program.
Hungry, why wait? Grab a Snickers. For those of us listening, for people listening, if you are one of those people that maybe struggles with food prep and like Zach, you get a little ornery when you start to get hungry, maybe Zach can do a separate podcast episode or a little consulting on the side. How do you meal prep for a day out in the field with Zack Morello? Crush it.
That'll be a 3-hour podcast.
Oh, now all kidding aside, dude, good to see you again. We're on our third episode, new format of the Lead with Empower podcast. I thought last episode was a lot of fun, and especially because we started to spend some time focusing on like there's not this like one size fits all team building experience for the different types of groups that are out there looking for team building. And one of the key takeaways from that discussion was for the teacher, the HR manager, the department head, whatever it is, the coach who's looking to arrange some sort of team building experience for their group, just making sure that you're doing your diligence and that the person on the other end of the phone, whoever this contractor is or whatever you call it, making sure that they have a great understanding of who your group is, what their dynamic is, and probably most importantly, like the desired outcomes that you have for this potential experience. So, again, if you're into this idea of exploring team building and it's a team building experience for your group, making sure those 3 bits of information come up in the conversation, whether it's you being asked those questions or you just sharing that information, like a little bit of info about your group, a little bit info about maybe some of their strengths and weaknesses or challenges. And then most importantly, like, hey, at the end of this thing, the desired outcomes are X, Y, and Z. Which is and we also, again, if you're catching this one as your first listen, we also explained and quickly demonstrated an activity that can be done in just about any setting that would qualify as a team building experience for you and your group. So, but last episode is kind of a cool springboard for this episode. We're going to get into not necessarily the different group types that we work with and how the programming might vary based on the group type, but our 3 kind of main programming concepts. So on one end, we have your pure fun kind of team bonding outing. On the other end of the spectrum, we have what you would call like professional development or skill development experiences, which I would say leans more towards like hands-on workshop as opposed to play experience. And then the middle area of our continuum or spectrum is kind of that collaborative skill building experience where it's that mix of, hey, we're going to learn a little bit, we're going to have a little bit of fun, and we're going to have a good day together. So, again, Zach, for you, this type of stuff is really new to you since January, and you have almost a full year under your belt Um, Talk a little bit about your experiences so far with Empower with regards to like selling and facilitating a fun group outing program, selling, facilitating more of that middle area, like that collaborative skill building. And I know we haven't had a ton of these for you, but any kind of learnings with regards to like more of those professional development style programs?
Yeah. So, in all honesty, I use a lot of my natural personality to sell just in general of being able to have good conversation and relate to whoever I'm talking to. That's the salesy person in me, and you could use that, anywhere. So when selling the fun program, like the outgoingness and the fun comes out in the phone call, and when I get there, I get people hyped up quick, and like hyped up quick. Dial in on what the activities are, and then let's grind together and have some fun. I mean, even with those, you see people learning throughout, but we don't really focus as a facilitator on that stuff, even though you see it because you have the experience. But the fun ones are essentially a little easier for me, just because of that's what the nature of the activities are. But I will say the ones that mix both the fun and the skill, the team building collaboration, I get more out of it personally to see people grow.
Yeah.
It's true. I don't care what age or what group that we're doing it with. When you have that goal of like, I really need my team to work better together. I really need these two people to like get along well enough to get the job done. They don't have to. You said this before in past programs. We don't expect everyone to be best friends and getting pizza afterwards, but you want to be able to work together well enough to get the job done, get the activity done, get the program done. And to see, even with 2 hour, 4 hour, 6 hour programs, to see that growth happen throughout that time together is rewarding in my end as well. Like, not because I'm doing it myself, but I'm helping people grow amongst each other. So when I do sell those types of programs, that's something that I'll bring up. Like that, yes, you're not going to have the best friend collaboration at the end, but you're going to have growth in even if that in that short amount of time.
Yep. Yep. Now, one of your first, and I don't know if I would categorize this fully under like the professional development umbrella, but I think it was probably one of the programs that was closest to that end of like the facilitation spectrum or whatever you might call it. Um, was with corporate group, backyard,
Yep.
and I remember we both jumped on a couple different calls, right, to get a good feeling about like the desired outcomes. But I vividly remember our post event conversations. One, it was in the dead of the summer, so it was hot as bejesus, and it was in an area where, if I remember correctly, you didn't have a lot of like shade coverage
It was
there.
hot. It was hot.
With a bunch of people that work in an office 40 hours a week, right? So climate controlled. Um, if you can, um, what were a couple like maybe kind of the elevator, pitch about maybe what that program was all about, and then something that you kind of saw from the participants that let you know that hey, they're doing a little bit of both. Like they're having this fun, but they're also gonna walk away being better prepared for work the next day from the experience.
Yeah, I think that it was more. I could explain more during my program than the actual selling point. The selling point was the event coordinator was explaining specifically how they're going to integrate AI into the office. You and I both know crap about AI, and I don't think that like there's I said up front like I don't know anything about that. But what we do is accepting new ways of doing things or accepting new strategies of throughout a program, and I can facilitate that. Not to use the word over and over again, but I can facilitate that with with bringing AI into the office. So outside of like working together, we had one of our activities was a difficult puzzle that we have to get done, and there are 4 different ways to get the same job done, and if you're stuck in your way and it's not working, try something else. try, try something different.
The novel idea, novel
Yeah, you know,
concept.
you think that's a crazy idea, but I have to, you know, maybe the more stubborn. These are, you know, grown professional adults, and sometimes, in a weird way, you have to tiptoe around their ego, to listen to someone like me. Like, hey, I've seen this puzzle, you know, 1,000 times this year. Let me give you a little assist.
But
So
that ain't it.
that's not it. Exactly. So, but the event coordinator, after obviously speaking with him and getting us to that program and hiring us, he saw it happen like live, and he was participating as well, and he saw his employees listen to what I'm saying when it comes to, hey, this strategy might not be working. I heard one person, you know, Ann over here had this idea, and like that was it. That's all I needed to go. And they're like,
Yeah.
okay, and come on over. Like, what did you have? And they changed it up, and they listened to, you know, quote unquote Ann's idea, and then they started, you know, cooking with butter, as they say.
Yeah.
And and for that program specifically, not only did I know going into the program that was their issue, was bringing in a new way of doing things, but I not stopped them halfway, but also at the end when they completed it, be like, all right, everyone, what did we learn? I obviously not like that, but we
Yeah.
have a debrief at the end, just talking about how you got to that solution, and I'll straight up tell them like, this is why we're doing it. Let's try to accept new ways of things that might seem like take a little bit longer at the beginning, but are going to be more efficient, and you're going to win or complete the task quicker at the end.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's what I talked about AI, not specifically, but just integrating it within the office.
Yeah. And it's again like we're not necessarily going to provide that professional development about like the best practices for AI in a
No.
workplace or in a classroom or whatever it might be. But if we can leverage some sort of experience to help equip people with the tools to integrate something new into their routine, that's a win. So it's not, and I know there's some great feedback from that particular client for that event. So it's not, based on your account and his account and their account, it sounds like it was a hit. And I'm excited as you kind of continue to grow and develop into your role here with Empower. Like I think that's an area where, especially with your experience in like corporate management, that could be a really cool area, or like a line of programming that I think will be soon turn from something that's kind of new and foreign to something that's a strength of yours.
Yeah, it's only natural that I'm more comfortable in that environment. You would think that it would be, the high schoolers, kids, and I'm learning and I'm getting better. But I still have a lot to learn for that age group, and even sports in that
Yep.
arena. But like, because I'm coming off of 9 years of management in that world, like I know what the problems are, it being in front of them, so I can speak to it a little bit clearer or easier. But of course, there's more to learn with everything.
Cool. Yeah, no, I love it. And so for those of you listening that are like, what the heck's the difference between outing and blah, 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 blah. Little backstory. So when we first opened up back in 2009, Joe Durang, founder, myself at the time, operations manager, our every intention we had was to right out of the gate work with groups and do like leadership training and team building. We found out very quickly, with a half-mile long treetop zipline canopy tour that we used to operate for 10 years. We had a shiny new toy that was much more engaging than maybe some sort of team building experience. So our first few years in business, the vast majority of our time was spent like in harness, leading groups of people through this pretty sick zipline course. And then right around like 2014, 2013, 2014, 2015, we started to see some significant growth in our team building side of the business. And one of the, I guess, the tough learning experiences, I think for us at the time, like, all right, team building, we kind of had a feel for what that was and what it could be. And, but we had a couple, nothing major as far as like not incidents, but a couple scenarios where I think the client thought they were getting one type of experience, and we thought they wanted a different type of experience. And yeah, I think it maybe was like a solid like C plus program as opposed to striving for getting up into that high B A range.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we did right around that time when we started to realize there might be in certain situations a disconnect right between the programmer and the people on the receiving end, we wanted to make sure that we made it pretty clear and evident to people that were going to book with us or people that were info gathering. When you partner up with Empower Leadership, there's essentially three paths that we can go down. Three major highways, I guess. And then within those major highways, there's different lanes and exits, based on kind of some of the stuff we talked about during our last episode. Like every group is so freaking different. Like corporate team building doesn't necessarily cover everything. So we started to think deeply into like what we offer, and we came up with the three major buckets, right? So the fun group outing is the experiential adventure version of like going to the bar and getting happy hour drinks, going to listen to a live band. It's essentially the premise is bring people together through some sort of shared experience. And the primary goal is let's kind of put aside the 9 to 5 stuff, leave it in the desk, right? Leave it in the back, the work bag, whatever it might be. And let's just go have some fun with the people that we are in the grind with on a day-to-day basis, but let's not bring up too much of that grind. Like let's just straight up go out and have a good time together.
Yep.
And the group outing, and it could be for adults, students, whatever it might be, but typically like the fun group outing is something that might be more of like that celebratory type experience. Like, hey, we had a great third quarter. We're going to take a half day off and do something fun together out of work. All of my students in my homeroom made some semblance of honor roll. We're going to do some sort of like reward trip. So yes, as you touched on earlier, like kind of under the radar, there's some learning that could take place. But at the end of the day, those group outings are typically like hour and a half to 2 hours, and they are full send, bring the juice, bring the energy. Like think about like your most intense like challenge on Survivor, where everybody's just freaking having a blast, getting after it. Maybe a little trash talk, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like a good, fun, positive experience. When we look at that middle category, collaborative skill building, this is where we get into a little bit of both. We're going to have some fun. We're going to work together. We're going to learn a little bit, and we're going to try to take something back with us from this type of from this experience. Group outing, typically like I don't know how you describe it when someone asks about like what's a fun group outing for Empower. I always think of it as like minute to win it, but instead of like 1 minute iterations, like the iterations are like 20 to 25 minutes.
Right.
Like, hey, let's get this group of people split up into teams. Yeah. We're going to run them through like 5 20-minute activities, and at the end, one of the teams is going to be crowned like the champion, and we're going to give that, something to take away with them at the end of the program. Like that's, yeah.
What? I think before you continue that, regardless of the category or the highway that we are there for, is to set that expectation prior to us our arrival. They know what to expect when going there, and then not for nothing, I don't care if it's fun, development, or a little bit of both, the participants have to be open to it. For them to get it, even if it's just the fun one. Like they're like, oh, what are we doing? This is supposed to be fun. Like yes, let's give it a shot. Let's try, and like maybe you're gonna have a good time. And by the end of it, that same person is like running around the field like with their head cut off and smiling like crazy. But I think a big point is to be open to doing these type of activities with us.
Yeah, and dude, you hit the nail on the head. Like during the sales process, it is imperative like that there's this synergy between you or I and the person on the other end of the phone or on the other end of the Google Meet or whatever it is, like just making sure that there's an understanding of like this is what you want, this is what we're going to offer, and this is how it fits. And like making sure that there's not an I not dotted or a T not crossed, like that. All of those little nitty gritty details are locked in. And again, nail on the head. Like, again, how do we take like some sort of learning experience? I think in our last episode we talked a little bit about how like inclement weather can be a perfect opportunity to learn.
Right.
In this instance, I think another great lesson is like in any scenario, if your mindset is negative, your body language will be negative, the experience will be negative. And on the converse, if your mindset is positive and open, you're going to have a little bit more engaged body language. And usually, not all the time, but usually the experience is better than what you thought it would be before it started. And
Right.
which is a powerful lesson.
To go off of the backtrack with the idea of weather, I meant to say this earlier, is when you, me, or any of our facilitators go into a crappy weather like we are tomorrow with our shoulders slunched and covering up our hood and miserable that we're out there, what do you think's going to happen?
Oh, then what do you think the kids are going to be too? Yeah, they're going to live down to that.
Exactly. They're going to follow suit. So, like, and without a doubt, there's not going to be one kid that's going to be having fun. Even if they're one of the ones that would have had fun regardless, they're going to follow us.
Yeah.
So we go in there, head high, high energy, ready to go, regardless of how we're feeling internally, freezing hot, whatever situation that we're in. And it sets the expectation. It sets the standard. As they say at my gym. So it sets the standard of what to expect from a program like that. And then you have the stragglers that you have to convince to participate. But 90% of them, they're like, okay, these guys are in it with us. Like, what do you think, that we're sitting in a booth and room temperature controlled, telling you what to do? Like, no,
yeah, on like a microphone.
I'm out here with you. I'm sweating with you, or I'm freezing with you.
Yeah.
And look at my face. I'm geared up.
Yeah,
So I think that's a huge part of what we do.
It's all about bringing the juice, man. That is such an important quality of a leader in any setting, because I love my job. I love work. I love Empower. I love what we do. There is not an ounce within me that second guesses that or doubts that. That being said, to be able to do the parts that I love, which is being in front of people and teaching and learning through play, there are some moments of like, the necessary evil. Like, I'm not a big computer spreadsheet guy, if you couldn't tell. But like putting my all into those types of tasks are what open up the doors for us to be able to do the fun stuff.
Right.
And the old like work hard, play hard kind of mentality, right? Like, it's so common, like especially working with youth groups. Like, I want to be the starting point guard for the basketball team in high school, or I want to play college football, or I want to be a veterinarian. Like, there's going to be a hell of a lot of level of challenge, on that journey. So like, start to embrace the idea of like, if this is what I want to do and this is what I think I'm going to love to do, there's going to have to be some moments where I'm doing something that I don't enjoy all that much. Mm-hmm. It'll be a hell of a lot more enjoyable with positive chin up, chest back, positive body language, and the juice, the energy.
I'm not the biggest sports follower, but I think it was either Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. He said that he hated every single minute of practice. Every single second on the court that wasn't a game. He hated every shot that he took that wasn't in a game. But he did that for 6, 8, I don't know how many hours that they practice to be able to be a champion player when the game starts. So knowing that an all-star player like that and one of the best players in the world hated practicing every day, but they are who they are because they went through all of it.
Yep. And I would bet. And again, I wasn't around to watch either of them practice, right? But I bet you if you showed up to a single one of those practices, there was no slouched over shoulders. There was no, MFing each other. There was no dragging the feet. Like, it was like, we're here and we're going to absolutely maximize the time. Because as we all, and this is something I think you get older, you start to kind of learn this a little harder, right? It's a little heavier of a hit, but like time investment, you never get back.
Right.
right? So like if you and I go through the motions in a program, like we'll never get to redo that. And that experience for that group of people we were in front of that we mailed in is going to be substandard, and we're never going to get, like, there's no reset button to get to do it again. So it's like, what do I need to do to be in a spot where it's not going to be perfect? It very rarely, if ever, is. But how are we going to maximize this time, this moment, this opportunity, and make the most out of it? And again, it's a form of leadership. It's a self-coaching type thing. It's a peer-to-peer motivating type thing, because every once in a while we all need that kick in the rear end to get back on track. But yeah, it's a powerful lesson, right? Body language and mindset absolutely has an impact on performance and experience.
For sure. I mean, to wind it back a little bit, when you are putting together a program, obviously weather is something that you can't control, but you can use during the actual activities themselves for that day, and prepare as much as possible. What else is it that goes into the design of going for a program?
Yeah, and this is we touched on kind of a higher level of this in our last episode, and that's a great question. So again, in the last episode, we had really reinforced the importance of, if you're looking to engage in team building, there's got to be some shared understanding of like what your group is, and what, who the people are and what they're all about, and what the desired outcomes are. Desired outcomes, and again, this is kind of a direct, a reflection of how I had this conversation on the phone. Like, oh, hey, Zach, you're interested in some team building with us. Like, tell me a little bit about your group, strengths, challenges, what you hope they get away from the experience. And I'll, receive that information and take some great notes. And then the next question is like, so team building can cover a wide range of experiences, so, I like to provide people who are inquiring with, like, we could do something that's purely fun, get the group together, very, very, very light facilitation, just really not for any other reason than, like, I don't know if you believe this, but I firmly believe, like, finding success is much more fun than finding failure over and over and over again. So, like, the facilitation and the fun group outing is really just like, take these things and use them because they're going to help you find success, and that's much more fun than struggling.
You're guiding them to get to a W. You're helping them get to a win instead of leaving the game with the puzzle unfinished or without completing it in a certain amount of time. It's not about that. It's about getting to the win.
Yep. So that's like, hey, our first kind of style of program is this fun group outing. Not a lot of heavy lifting as far as like facilitation is concerned. It's really just that. Take a break from the hustle, have some fun with the people that you are in the hustle with on a day-to-day basis. And at minimum, what you'll walk away with, you'll have some fun memories that you can talk about at the water cooler the next day, talk about at the desks, so on and so forth. I don't even know if people do water coolers anymore, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The other end of this, the kind of this facilitation spectrum, is our professional development. And this is where we're getting a little bit more into, like, this group is either facing some legit challenges in their day-to-day, and they need some sort of low-risk experience to help them develop the capacity to overcome those challenges down the road. And we'll get into, the different types of groups and maybe some of the common challenges. Or it's, we do a lot like with camp counselors. In June, I think, the past couple Junes, we've done like 25 municipal summer camp staff training events. Yep. And, that style of professional development might be some simple group management tactics, like where do you stand when you're presenting an activity to your group? How often do you move around, and where do you position yourself? How do you gain the attention of the group without screaming at them? It could then go deeper into that about, we do a lot of like train the trainer. Here's a list of 10 activities we're going to teach you today, and you have all the resources and equipment that you need to run the activity in your camp setting. So now you're going to have a little bit more wherewithal of how to actually deliver that experience. We've done a lot with like, in the corporate setting where, we might do a little bit focus on, gaining a greater understanding of, team members and in very high level general terms, like people strategies. So often, and we see this a lot in our work, like so often there's like a beef between two participants and it's Zach's fault. No, Zach's saying it's Dan's fault. We're saying it's someone else's fault. And really at the end of the day, we all contribute to the fault. And it's like, instead of pointing fingers at each other and playing the blame game, like, can we just find common ground? And people strategies and understanding what makes Zach tick and what makes the other person tick, and like having a greater understanding of that and appreciation for that as a leader is going to allow you to kind of bring the best out of the people that you're working with.
I think that's a huge one, is self-awareness of what you're doing without realizing it.
Yep.
Like you guys have the same goal. I say this all over and over again. The outcome you want is the same. Doing it is going to be completely different. Maybe my idea is not good or bad. It's just different from yours.
Yep.
And my idea, it is what it is because of how I grew up and my experiences and my personality and all these different contributing factors. And it might be completely head butted with somebody else's ideas and the way they get to a similar goal. But our job is to realize that these two things can actually work together really well if you just understood, like, Bob is a different person than me, or Susie Sue is a different person than me, and they might, although we might not get along, we're trying to get to the same thing. So let's try to help each other out do it. And like you see it over and over again, like, okay, I'll try. And then all of a sudden they're like working like a well machine like unit. And it's just being open to their ideas.
Yep. And aware of it too. I think like so often we just chalk it up to we're just different. We're not going to work. We just can't work together versus like, oh, Dan approaches these situations this way because, and Zach approaches these situations this way because. Now that we have a better understanding of it, maybe we're a little bit more open to like move towards some sort of middle ground and pull in the same direction as opposed to pulling against each other.
Exactly.
And then, so we started off with kind of the two types of programs that are less common, the straight up pure fun outing, and then your professional development or essential skill development. We would call it for like a youth group. The middle bucket, which is we call collaborative skill building, is probably where like 70% of our programs fall. And it is not for like this specialized group of leaders or captains or department chairs. It's not for, it's not designed to replace like going to the bowling lounge and having a couple cocktails on a Friday afternoon. This is a program style for everybody that will have elements of fun, will have elements of challenge and struggle, and most importantly, will have elements of learning. And that's so, you look at these three types of programs, pure fun on one side, heavier towards the learning on the other side, and then the middle, there's that combination. And would you agree that's like where most of our groups land? Is yes. Like, yeah, we want to have a great experience, but we also want to make sure our group leaves with X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, for sure. Like as fun as the fun ones are, I guess you would say, it's cooler to mix the two together because we are going to have some fun today. We are going to run around, walk around, and get loose with each other when it comes to a different environment than what they're used to from work, school, or sport. But we're also gonna learn some things today, and that's illustrated and communicated at the beginning so that when we do finish an activity, or not even finish, when we're halfway through the activity, we kind of have this pullback time of like, okay, hands down, pencils down, puzzle down, activity down, what's going on during this time that we can learn from.
Yep. And then again, for people's kind of reference, just to have some mental framework. So like, fun group outing is just that. A lot of times, with bigger groups in particular, there's like a fun competitive element where we might split a group of 50 into like 6 teams of 8 or 9, and they would run through these kind of short-winded kind of activity challenge stations, and it's points based. Think like a team building version of like your old PE class, like field day, right? The group outing is driven a little bit more by specific outcomes, with fun being one of those specific outcomes. that is a little bit more structured, as Zach just touched on. I got you. As Zach just touched on, there's like, let's pause, let's figure out like what's happening, why it's happening, and what we can do about it. So there's a little bit, there's more of those moments. And then professional development is more, think of like that workshop. And I could confidently say we don't do those like we're going to go in and talk at you for 3 hours professional development. It is still experience driven, but it is definitely more outcome driven as well. So again, why are we talking about this stuff? Because if you are an individual who's looking to schedule some sort of like team building experience for their group, I think it's important to know the difference between the different types of programming styles and making sure that you're expressing that to whoever you're on the phone with. Like, hey, our group doesn't need any teaching and learning. Like we just wrapped up. Like I look at like accounting, like accounting firms.
Yeah.
Like they go through tax season and they're probably working like 23 and a half hours a day. Like when that's over, they don't need somebody to come in and be like, there's no trust here, and this is what we're going to do to rebuild it. Like they need to release. Yeah. Like let's go have some fun. And then you might look at, recently I worked with a school out in Glastonbury with their student council, 5th and 6th grade student councils students, and they're right at the start of the school year. It was a mix of like fun bonding, but we also wanted to make sure some learning took place because these students are going to have responsibilities, kind of above and beyond the other students in the building throughout the school year. And if they're not prepared for that, they're not going to be able to do the best job that they can do in their role as student council members. So, again, if you're on the phone inquiring about team building, make sure you know what your ideal takeaways are and then express that in, we need just fun, we want a little bit of mix of fun and learning, or this is either one of those break glass in case of emergency situations and our team is really struggling, or we just have a group that's hungry and wants to kind of take their leadership to the next level, where you might lean a little bit more towards that like professional development type of experience. So
and I'll elaborate on that too. As an event coordinator is what we call them, whether you're the coach or the teacher or the office manager, understanding what your team needs is a skill in itself.
Yep.
Because you see the work getting done, but if it's getting done miserably and people aren't working at full capacity, you don't know what really they're capable of, or vice versa. There's a lot of fun happening in the office, but not a lot of work. There's a thousand different scenarios that you can think of, but you recognizing that is actually part of a good leader. So when you come to Empower, like, hey, this is what's going on. The more we know, the better outcome that you're going to get with a program, because the better we're prepared of designing it.
Yeah, 100%. And like, again, our during this podcast, we're always going to try to introduce some level of like content that can kind of open up and have you I guess develop a greater understanding of what like team building really can look, sound, feel like, but also some tangible takeaways. In our last episode, we talked about and introduced the Art Forgery Initiative, which is a really fun, really cool, popular activity that we run in quite a few of our different programs. For today's takeaway, get on the computer, look up Bruce Tuckman, Stages of Group Development. I want to say the initial study was in like 1965. And again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but in Tuckman's research, in the initial research, he identified 4 stages of group development. These are not necessarily sequential, and it's also not a situation where like once a group completes one phase, it's guaranteed that they're always going to move forward towards the next phase. So this is fluid, but in Tuckman's original study, the 4 stages of group development that he introduces are forming, storming, norming, and performing. And then a little bit later down the line, there was a 5th stage added called adjourning. So like, and again, go online, Bruce Tuckman, Stages of Group Development. It is, I want to say it's somewhat commonsensical, but it is such important information. And it's really, when I'm on the phone with a potential client, this is the information that I'm trying to pull from the conversation, because that um, identifying what category the group is in or what stage of development the group is in is going to be the driving force for what we put together as far as a program or some different options to choose from. Um, the four stages, again, forming, storming, norming, performing, and then later on, the fifth stage was added, adjourning. Forming, new group of people coming together, typically a couple characteristics. Generally, people put a pretty thick social guard, social barrier up in these situations because everybody's trying to figure everybody out. Everybody's trying to see like what's the rank and file in this group of 30 that I'm thrust into. So everybody's kind of playing it pretty close to the vest. You're not seeing a lot of conflict, and you're seeing almost like these shields or barriers put up, and everybody tiptoeing. What's Zack all about? What's this person all about? What's that person all about? What's the typically groups that are heavily in the forming stage, they're going to need a program or an experience where there's a lot of those engager, icebreaker style activities, right? To foster that relationship development and start to chip away at the social barriers that people put up when they go into new situations.
Right.
Stage 2 is the storming phase. Storming phase happens after the forming has kind of settled, right? And everybody kind of feels where they're at in the rank and file. However, this is where you'll start to see some of those struggles for power within the group, where you might see Zack, who thinks he's the alpha. You might see Dana, who thinks she's the alpha. And you might start to see these kind of struggles for power within the group, and to a point where you'll see some cliques start to develop, like, I'm on team Zack, I'm on team Dana, I'm on team this person. And there's really this kind of air of conflict and like a power struggle essentially within the team. If you feel like your team is in that stage, you need an experience that is straight up collaborative. The word competition shouldn't even be brought up. Everything should be run so that I can't do what I need to do unless Zack chips in, and vice versa. It's like really, really, really heavy handed on the side of collaboration. In the norming phase, this is when people finally start to accept where they fall in like the power hierarchy within the team. However, they don't necessarily fully agree with it. They start to accept like, oh, I'm here. I'm just the bottom man on the barrel. This is what it is. In the norming phase, you can almost call it like the settle phase, and it almost turns into like, it's good enough. So, if you feel like your group is in like this settling norming phase, the type of program I think is important is starting to get people in some of those activities that have very different defined roles, and starting to get people in spots where either they have to play a specific role based on their strengths, or they have to be put into a position where they're in kind of a role that exposes some of their weaknesses, where they really, really have to rely on not just the teammates, but the very specific roles. And like, if Zack's doing role A to the best of his ability, and person 2 is doing role B, and I'm doing role C, it's going to come together, and we're going to be really supportive of each other for like that shared goal, whatever it is, achieving that shared goal. Groups that are in the performing stage, this is when they're not settled into a role. This is when every individual that's part of the group is placed into or slotted into the role that is perfect for their skills, abilities, strengths, and weaknesses. Synergy is like the buzzword that's out there now. Like, we want the synergistic approaches. The performing stage is what synergy is, right? Zack is in the perfect spot for his skill set. I'm in the perfect spot for my skill set. Everybody else, every other member of the group is in their perfect spot to maximize their skill set. And in doing so, we are high performing, because by maximizing our skill sets, we're also supporting each other's weaknesses and challenges. In my opinion, when groups are in the performing stage, this is when I want to rile up some conflict. This is when I want to kind of almost take them back to the storming phase to see if they can do things a little bit differently to take their performance, maybe even if it's just an inch further than what it currently is. And then in the adjourning phase, the kind of category of the adjourning phase is just like this think of like the end of a sports season, like a high school sports season. This same group of people that were on this team for the past however many months, however many years, it's about to come to an end. We're at our last game, right? We're at the last day of school. We're the last day before a corporate reshuffle, and we're kind of celebrating the ending of like what this specific team is. And in those instances, in my opinion, again, I would never try to like sell you a skill building or professional development program. Right. Any group that's in that adjourning phase should leave it as like, let's go do one of those fun group outings and celebrate what we accomplished, celebrate the people that we accomplished with, and make sure everybody's ready for whatever their next adventure is. So hopefully some helpful information for the listener. Again, if you're looking to engage in some sort of team building program, if there's not a conversation happening about your group, their dynamic, their strengths, their weaknesses, and your desired outcomes, it might be time to either bring that stuff up or hang it up and find another organization that'll ask you those questions. So what do you think?
I mean, you made a lot of good points. I think there's one last thing that I would take away is that regardless of what your group is in prior to the event, I've seen it, you see it over and over again, where those stages are transformed throughout the event, throughout our program. You see going from storming to norming all the time. It's the transformation of comfortability amongst the group of what their goals are throughout. And I'll say one more thing. It doesn't matter who we're in front of, rather what category of age or sport or school or office that you're in. These things happen in every kind of group that we're in front of. It's another podcast that we can talk about where the development amongst the group is going to be the same. I don't care if you're 15 years old or 55 years old. You see the same kind of traits happen in those activities.
Yep. Yeah. You see a lot of the same behaviors and a lot of the same interactions and a lot of the same kind of progress, across these different stages. And you're right. It could happen within a program. It could happen within one activity.
Right.
In a program. So, which, I think reinforces this idea. Leadership is difficult because it's a people thing, right? It's a people business, and everybody has their own different style and their own strengths and weaknesses and their own different ways to go about things. And then when someone's maybe removed from a group for a temporary reason or even permanently, it can have this kind of big effect where your group is bouncing around because it's different now. Yeah. So again, making sure you're doing your diligence. If you're on the phone with somebody talking, inquiring about team building, making sure that you're having those types of conversations. If not, you are probably going to end up in one of those situations where you thought the experience is going to be one thing, the organizer thought it was going to be another thing, and it didn't really work out well for anybody. So it's avoidable. Again, a little extra work on the front end saves a lot of time and headaches when you're in the moment. So, yes, sir. Zach, always a pleasure, dude. We are closing up shop here on episode 3 of the Lead with Empower podcast. Check it out on our YouTube channel. We'll have it posted up on our social platforms, most notably Instagram. Handle is Lead with Empower, and our website is leadwithempower.com. Thank you so much for checking it out. Go out there and dominate the next challenge in front of you. Have a good one. Thank you.